So now we're going to look at a method on the window object that is really powerful when it comes to animation. So it's called request animation frame, and it tells the browser that you wish to perform an animation and requests that the browser call a specific function to update an animation before the next repaint. Okay, and when I say repaint, you can think of each step in an animation, the browser or the screen is getting repainted. Okay, and this method takes, as an argument, it takes a callback to be invoked before the repaint. So I know that that's a little confusing, so let's just jump into it and we're basically going to take this ball and just make it animate across the screen. So I have an image, just ball PNG. You can use any image you want, but that's what I'm using. And then we're going to jump into our JavaScript here. And what I'm going to do is create a function called step. Okay, and all I'm going to do for now is a console log of hello. And then what I'm going to do is call the request animation frame method and pass in the step function as an argument. And this will tell the browser to call the step function before the next repaint. So let's say request animation frame, and then I'm going to pass in step. And I'm just going to, before I run this, I'm going to open the console up and then just save. Okay, so what happens here is it just runs once. Okay, we requested the browser to call this step function before the next repaint. There was one repaint. Now, what we can do is we can call this request animation frame in here as well. So we'll say request animation frame, and we're going to call this recursively, so call step again. And now as soon as I save this, what's going to happen is it's going to keep repainting, and you can see it keeps console logging. This number counting up is the number of times it's console logging. So in here is where we can do some really cool animations. Now this whatever callback you pass in here, this is going to take in a timestamp. And what that's going to be is just the time from when it starts and it just counts up as it goes. So let's just log the timestamp. And there we go. And it's in milliseconds. So what I'm going to do is I want to figure out how much time has passed. Let me just stop this real quick. So I want to figure out how much time has passed since this starts, right? Since we call request animation frame. So I'm going to have a couple variables up here. One is going to be start, which is just going to be undefined to begin with, and then done, which I'm going to set to false. So basically, when we want this to stop, then done should be set to true. So in the step function here, let's get rid of that, and let's do conditional. And we want to say if start is equal to undefined, which it is to begin with, right? Then we want to set start equal to that timestamp. And then we want to get the time that's elapsed, the time that's passed. So let's say const down here elapsed, and we can get that by just taking the timestamp and subtracting whatever the start is. And then we can just do a console log of elapsed. Okay, so now it's just showing us how much time has passed since we started. But I'm going to stop that as well. And then right now it's just going to keep going. So let's make it stop after 2 seconds. So we'll say if the time elapsed is greater than 2,000 milliseconds or 2 seconds, then let's set done to true. Okay, then all we have to do is check for done. So we'll say if done. So if done is true, then we're going to return, which will stop the repaint. And for now, I'll just console log elapsed, and you'll see it should stop after 2 seconds. Okay, now to animate something, we can use this elapsed value if we want. That's what I'm going to do. Is I want to move this ball across the page using the transform translate X in CSS. Okay, the transform property, and then translate X just allows you to specify where you want the element on the X axis. So to do this, I'm going to bring the image in so I can manipulate it. So we'll say const image equals document dot query selector, and we'll just select the only image on the page. And then down here, instead of console logging, I'm going to say image. Did I call it image? Yeah. So image dot style dot and then transform. And I want to set that to, we're going to use some backticks here, and we want to set translate on the x-axis because we want it to move, you know, left to right. So translate x, and then the value for that is going to be dynamic. We're going to use that elapsed variable, and we're just going to divide that by 20. And then outside of this curly brace, we just need to put pixels, px. So now if I save that, it's going to basically just keep going for 2 seconds. Let's actually change it to 5. So it's just, it keeps changing this translate x value. In fact, if I open up my elements here, and let's just take a look here. So that's the value right now, but let's reload the page, and you can see that it's changing based on that elapsed time. Now, if I wanted to go the other way, I could do translate y, and now it'll go down. So I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do. What I would like to do is also have it rotate as it moves, as it translates. So we'll have translate x, but we can add in here, in addition to translate, we can use rotate. So we'll say rotate, and I'm going to do the same thing. So we're going to use elapsed divided by 20, and we need to add px. Let's see what's going on here. Did I do that right? So we get translate x, passing in elapsed. Then we have rotate. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not pixels, it's degrees. So DEG. And there we go. So now it's moving across the page with translate x, and then it's rotating with rotate, and it's the same speed, right? It's whatever elapsed divided by 20. If I change both of these to 10 and I save, it's going to go a little faster. All right, so, and it didn't stop, and that's because it just made it further because it was 5 seconds. So you can see it stopped right there. All right, so that is just the very basics of request animation frame. So what I want to do in the next video is start our clock project, where we're going to use a combination of the Canvas API along with request animation frame.